sushi, poke bowls, and even the Chinese New Year prosperity salad. All these dishes have one thing in common: raw fish. But recently, raw fish has gone viral. Not on food reviews, but for all the wrong reasons. This latest TikTok, which garnered over 63,000 views, was posted by Jeff Koh in April.
I bought some sushi from this very popular takeout store. This store is always crowded with long queue, and I trusted their hygiene due to their popularity in Singapore. But when I reached home and I've noticed that there were a few dead parasites on it, although I was not entirely sure they looked like it to me. They are in white, worm-like shapes. So after the incident happened, I changed my habit to go to a proper Japanese restaurant to eat sashimi, and I usually will take a closer look to the raw salmon to see if there were any parasites or any worms on it, and I will just flip around the sushi.
Like Jeff, I don't want to give up my sushi just yet. So in this episode of Talking Point, I want to find out how safe is it to eat raw fish in Singapore.
Jeff didn't know if what he saw on the fish were parasites. But I want to know exactly what those white worms are. Helping me out is an expert on fish diseases, Marie Tan.
So I wanted to show you this video because it's been going viral of worms crawling around on our sashimi. What is it?
This is actually a roundworm. Anisakis is one of the commonly found roundworms. This is a type of fish parasite that uses fish as their host for survival. I have an example here. The prominent features of roundworms, they are cylindrical, maybe less than about 1 to 2 cm. They're usually about whitish in color. They curl up in the fish flesh or muscle like what you have seen in the video.
And how do they get inside fish?
The parasite actually need different hosts to survive. Firstly, the adult worm lay the eggs in the intestine of the host. This host can be a dolphin. The eggs of the parasite worms are actually passed out in the feces of the host. Then the eggs will actually hatch out into free-swimming larvae. Free-swimming larvae are actually small little baby worms which are swimming around in the ocean to find the next host. Then a crustacean that comes along like a prawn will actually eat the free-swimming larvae and then get infected with it. Then a fish that comes along that feeds on the prawn will actually get infected with this parasitic worm.
And of course, we end up eating that fish.
Yes, that's right. Then that's how humans actually becomes an accidental host to the parasite.
How common are these parasites?
They're actually quite common in fish. If you eat the wild-caught fish raw, you will likely see some of these. Wild-caught fish, as compared to farm fish, are likely to have more of this. Farm fish are usually farmed in cages. These fish do not encounter other hosts such as the small crustaceans. There are actually 3 types of fish parasites. The common fish parasite that can cause stomach upset are roundworm and the tapeworm. The tapeworm may actually get in the fish similar as the roundworm. So here I have a sample of the tapeworm larvae, and this is actually embedded in the raw fish. So people who eat raw fish, they can miss seeing this embedded in the flesh.
And so if I eat it, what happens?
That might be a possibility. It will develop till adult stage.
Yikes.
Yeah. I have a sample here. I'll show it to you.
Wow, that is one long, tall guy.
Yeah. So this is tapeworm is different from the roundworm. As you can see here, it's segmented and flat.
Like flat pasta. How long are these guys?
Depending on the host, they can get to about 2 to 3 meters long.
So the taller I am, the chances are there's a longer worm in me.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds gross. So how can I kill these parasites?
So it's either you cook it or you deep freeze it. Singapore Food Agency is actually very stringent. They actually would require people who prepare raw fish to actually deep freeze them, and these parasites should already be dead by the time it's served to our table.
To kill parasites, Singapore authorities recommend those who import and process ready-to-eat raw fish to go through deep freezing. Now this means freezing your fish at minus 20 degrees for up to 24 hours. But it's just a guideline and not mandatory. Kenny Ng does not deep freeze the fish he imports. He runs a central kitchen that processes salmon sashimi.
In this facility, we only process farm salmon. So farm salmon is coming from a very controlled environment where the risk of parasites is very low. And also, freezing them would affect the texture of the sashimi served.
That's right.
Yes, because frozen sashimi and chilled sashimi are of different texture.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
can differ quite a lot.
And what is the process like for the fish that arrives in Singapore?
Being a SFA licensed fish importer, we do have to apply cargo clearance permit each time we import the fish in. This is to ensure the traceability, just in case of any food incidents, we will know exactly which batch did it come from. Once the fishes arrive at the airport, our transporter will bring them over here, straight into our HQ here. They are coming in refrigerated truck kept within 4 degrees. Throughout the whole transportation, the temperature is kept beneath 4 degrees. This is straight from the airport. We have to do the checks inside the inspection room.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Let's follow the fish.
We're going to start by inspecting the integrity of the carton boxes
Oh,
to ensure that it's not broken.
meaning there are no holes in the
There's
box.
no holes. This to ensure there's no breach of temperature throughout the whole transportation.
While Kenny does not deep freeze the raw fish, he makes sure that the core temperature of the fish is kept below 4 degrees Celsius to minimize bacterial growth. That's because unlike the guidelines on deep freezing fish to kill parasites, the Singapore Food Agency, or SFA, does mandate the amount of bacteria that can be found on ready-to-eat food.
We also conduct daily testing. The QA team will pick up the samples from the processing line to send them for bacterial tests in our internal QA lab.
After the fishes pass the inspections, they are cleaned and sliced.
So yeah, I see rolls of fish there, and they all go through this process.
These are not the only trolley. There are more trolleys kept in the chiller.
Okay.
Yep, and they will send out one trolley at a time. This is to reduce the exposure to the external room temperature. This room is kept at 15 degrees,
15 degrees, 1.5, I see.
while the chiller is kept at below 4 degrees to ensure that the fish are kept at the fresh.
Right.
The fish will look something like this after packing.
Ah, all the air is sucked out. Okay.
This will be sent to the restaurant. The production date is 11 and the expiry is on the 13th,
2 days later.
2 days later. And anything that is unfinished will be discarded
Right.
on the outlet side.
Wow. There are many steps involved in preparing the fish. Does everyone do this?
No, not all companies operate in the same manner as.
Okay, so some of these steps are things that you guys have decided to add on your own.
Yes, correct.
But, like Kenny, most importers prefer not to deep freeze their fish because it affects the texture when eaten raw. Which means there is a chance that we could be having sashimi with parasites lurking on them. What happens if, unwittingly, I ate a worm? I've discovered deep freezing raw fish, the only way to kill parasites, also affects the texture of the fish. Which is why most importers and chefs prefer not to deep freeze ready-to-eat fish. If that's the case, I want to know if there is a way for me to check for parasites before I indulge in my sashimi. Chef Koizuka Yoshihiko has been serving sashimi for almost 4 decades. He's going to give me some tips.
This is Kampachi yellowtail. This one we get from Osaka fish market. Yeah, so we check the freshness first. We check this eyes. Transparent, like very fresh. Then of course we check the inside. So we already remove the guts in Japan.
Why do they remove all the guts in Japan?
So most time worm in the intestine. Drop freshness, worm move to meat.
What are the chances of having the worms still in the fish even after the guts have been removed?
Yeah, still have, so we still check like just this surface first.
Yeah?
After make fillet, we check the inside. Let me
Yeah,
show
show
you.
me, please.
If worm like just moving, make hole. So first we check like this make hole or no. If worm inside have hole, then next one we touch. Then
It's quite firm,
if inside worm or no good flesh, maybe little bit soft.
so the meat is firm. And I can feel like it's...
Yeah. So this one today very good.
Okay.
Totally no soft.
And this has no worms, right?
No.
No, okay. That's good. Great, I could keep going.
I've learned how to spot parasites. But what happens if I miss it, since they're so tiny? This is Dr. Ling Li Min. She's an infectious disease specialist who has treated tapeworm infections, 3 of which happened last year. One case was confirmed when a patient found this in his stool.
So what will happen if I ingest a tapeworm?
The parasite can grow in our system, it attaches into our intestines, and from there it starts to grow bigger and bigger, and it reproduces as well. It can stay in for years. Certain individuals, they never know.
Right.
They never know that they have tapeworms because they have no symptoms, they are completely well. There's no diarrhea, there's no nausea, completely asymptomatic. And then one fine day, they find either they start having some non-specific gastrointestinal symptoms like a bit of altered stools, and even better, some have nothing at all, and then they find something is crawling in my stools.
So actually, is the tapeworm quite harmless?
Quick answer is it doesn't cause life-threatening diseases immediately, but if there is a tapeworm in your system, you need to get it looked at. The longer they stay in your system, it's going to cause problems. Remember, it latches onto the intestine, so it's going to interfere with nutritional absorption. All of this is going to give rise to general poor health.
And when it comes to anisakis, what are the symptoms like?
You can have a range of symptoms from nausea, vomiting, to diarrhea, loose stools. Some people may pass out some blood in their stools.
So it sounds a bit like just your regular food poisoning.
Pretty much. You probably, most of the time, can't tell apart from regular food poisoning.
How often do you see patients with, worms in them?
Well, thankfully, not at all common. But not common doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Actually, bacterial food poisoning are just so much more common than worms, okay? In fact, that probably is the primary causes of food poisoning. Related to raw fish, we would worry about salmonella, E. coli, Vibrio, listeria, for instance. Now, special mention for listeria because listeria in pregnant women can cause severe illness and can even lead to death of the babies. If we are healthy, it might cause just a minor illness. It does become a problem for patients whose immunity is not as good because when they come down with which might appear to be a regular food poisoning for other healthy patients, it can become severe for them, sometimes even life-threatening.
Getting sick from eating raw fish usually just means a bit of food poisoning that will pass in a few days, whether it's because of bacteria or a pesky parasite. But I'm curious about the safety of sashimi and whether it differs from restaurant to restaurant. I think it's time for another talking point test. I've assembled 15 samples of salmon sashimi from different sources: online grocers, high-end restaurants, mid-range eateries, budget-friendly joints, and even supermarkets. They are all priced differently, from as low as 90 cents per slice to $3.30 per slice. I'll be testing for Salmonella, E. coli, and Vibrio parahemolyticus. They are among the top bacterial causes of food poisoning in Singapore. I will also be testing for Listeria, a dangerous bacteria that could lead to miscarriages. And of course, parasites. I'm sending the samples to a lab, and the results will be out in 2 weeks. Most stores that sell ready-to-eat raw fish would tell you that it's recommended to be eaten on the day of purchase. But these days, there's another kind of raw fish that is said to be able to keep for longer, up to 5 days. And it's called zukes? In less than a year of running Itsy Bitsy Spicy, Emily Tan has sold over 25,000 cans of soy-marinated sashimi, or shoyu zukes. The hottest item on the menu? Salmon zukes.
Sashimi marinated in soy sauce, does it increase its shelf life?
Scientifically speaking, when you marinate seafood into salt water, it's supposed to increase the shelf life because when there's salt, there's antimicrobial properties. It actually kills some of the bacteria, not all, some bacteria. But one thing, it doesn't kill parasite. But because the marinade that we are using is not very salty, so we wouldn't really recommend people to keep it beyond the usual sashimi shelf life, which is around 2 to 3 days.
So it should be consumed within 3 days?
Yes, to ensure the optimal freshness.
Can I actually freeze this?
So we have actually tried freezing it, and the maximum that it can stay in the freezer is around 7 days.
2 to 3 days of shelf life for these zukes is still longer than having to eat my store-bought sashimi within the same day of purchase. But while salt helps preserve the raw fish for longer, it doesn't get rid of parasites. Only cooking or deep freezing kills the worms. It has been a week and the test results on my raw fish samples are out.
We did a series of microbiological tests, including E. coli, Listeria monocytogenes, Salmonella, Vibrio parahemolyticus, and parasites.
So out of the 15 samples that we sent in, what have the results shown?
Out of the 15 samples, there was only 2 which was contaminated.
Oh, okay.
Salmon 11 had an E. coli count, and salmon 8 had Listeria monocytogenes present. In salmon 11, we detected a count of 20 E. coli, colony-forming units per grams of the food sample, which is at an acceptable level as it is still lower than the food regulations of 100 colony-forming units per grams of the food sample. This actually shows about 60 colonies.
So even if I had all this on my fish, it's still actually considered okay, it's still safe?
Yes, even if you do come down with E. coli infection, usually it's self-limiting, so you might either have having a stomachache or diarrhea, but you should recover within a few days for healthy people.
How does E. coli end up contaminating the fish?
So when the food handlers, they don't wash their hands properly, like after going to the toilets, and then they handle the food, so there can be a chance of contamination where the E. coli is transmitted from the hands to the food products.
Okay, and salmon 11, let me check my list, is from the online grocer.
Salmon 8 had Listeria monocytogenes present in the food products. So its presence alone is a significant result. According to the Singapore food regulations, it should not be present in ready-to-eat food.
Okay, that's from our budget-friendly joint. Why is it so bad?
Healthy people rarely fall sick from a Listeria infection, but the elderly, the young, the immunocompromised, and pregnant women are at a higher risk. And especially for pregnant women, if they are infected with Listeria, it may cause miscarriages.
Ooh, that sounds pretty scary. And how does Listeria end up contaminating the raw fish?
So Listeria is a very common bacteria that is found in the environment, including soil as well as surfaces. So it can be introduced at any point along the food supply chain.
Okay.
So for example, if the table is dirty, and you put your fish on it and you chop it can go onto the food samples, and subsequently when you still package the fish, the bacteria can still remain in it. Listeria monocytogenes is a cold-loving bacteria. It actually survives pretty well when you keep your food in chilled conditions. If Listeria monocytogenes is in the fish and you keep it in the fridge, it can still survive, so it will not die.
In all 15 samples, no parasites were found.
So at the end of the day, would you say our sashimi, our raw fish, is safe to eat?
So out of the 15 samples that were tested, there were 14 samples that did pass the test. But by right, none of this bacteria should be found in all the 15 samples that were tested.
So all should have actually passed the test?
All should have passed. Raw fish is a high-risk food, so if you consume it, you do have to be cautious.
Our test showed no parasites in any of the raw fish samples. But there was Listeria in one, which would have immediately failed food safety standards. So, to be extra safe,
Next time you go shopping, buy perishables like sashimi last and keep it in an insulated bag like this. And once you get home, place it immediately in the fridge, and this should keep for about a day. And if you want to extend its shelf life, you can also freeze it. But once it's thawed, you have to consume it.
And when you are ready to eat it, clean your hands and surfaces with water and detergent before handling the fish slices. Avoid cross-contamination by using different utensils for raw fish and cooked food.
So there's always a level of risk when it comes to eating raw fish, and if you think, you might be at risk, then you might want to consider eating something else. As for me, I do love my sushi, so it's a risk I'm willing to take. Though, I think I'm going to pay a bit more attention to each slice before it goes in.